Hello, everybody, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room stream. And today we're going to touch on lots and lots of things. We're going to touch on, obviously, the transfer rumours, match previews, and what's going on really around Liverpool Football Club. So I'm joined by my main man, Kev. How are you, Kev?
All good, mate. All good, Richie. Looking forward to the game tomorrow. And nice to be on with you guys today as well. So, all good. How are you, mate?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Also looking forward to the game. It's nice that it's on at 5:30, Sky kickoff as well, so we can all watch it and hopefully watch the demolition of Brentford. Drew, how's it going, buddy?
Doing good. Excited for that later kickoff as well. Usually it's 4:30 a.m. for me, so 9:30 a.m. sounds pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And Charlie, it's the first time that a few of us have been on with you. You are a new welcomed addition. So, how are you finding things so far, and what are your hopes for tomorrow?
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. Really happy to be here. On youth policy, I would say for the quartet here tonight. But yeah, looking for revenge, and I really want to talk about it. So yeah, let's crack on.
Absolutely. And thank you everyone to joining the stream as well. Massive thanks to BH, massive thanks to Jen, Zakaria as well. So thank you all for joining us as well. So let's get on straight away to the transfers, because there has been a little bit of rumours about Ugarte. Apparently he has the okay from the management team for a move to Anfield. And we spoke on the stream a few days ago about Ugarte. He looks like an absolute animal and a monster. But it's now down to Liverpool and the negotiations with Sporting. Apparently, Ugarte would love to play for Liverpool, and that could help him, but it's 100% obviously up to the club and Sporting Lisbon whether or not they accept. So it's a very good and reliable source that came from, Baharim Kuchman. So, Kev, I know we spoke, both you and I, the other day on the stream about Ugarte. What's your thoughts on that now it's down to him? Do you think he pushes for the move? Do you think Liverpool cough up the value?
I think you've got to. I think the lad seems to want to play for Klopp. I think he's probably going to make it aware to Sporting that he wants to go. That hopefully will drop the price a little bit from the expectation, and helps us with the release clause as well. By all accounts, and listen to what I've heard from Neil Jones, he's kind of said, well, it's not a no, but there may be other. He's not top of the list. He's not seeing it to be as a priority at the minute, and that's the kind of worrying thing I'm gauging from it all. It depends how much the player wants to push for it. For me, I'm all in. We were discussing his stats the other day. He looks an absolute animal, and it's what we're missing. But it seems as though the club don't see it as a priority at the minute, which I think it is. I think we do need a defensive midfielder. I think it's a priority, very much a priority. But at the minute, it doesn't seem to be that way. I think we're looking at another target that we may be talking about in a bit, but I don't want to get into that. But I just want to say it could, try and get him through the door and then see what happens. But for me, it's a no-brainer, as I said the other day, Rich. Do you know what I mean? It's definitely a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, it certainly seems the position in which we're lacking in. Drew, I'll go straight over to you. Thoughts on Ugarte or any potential, number sixes?
I've said this in another stream where I'm honestly not watching the Portuguese league that much. I've seen a few compilations now, but Rigo speaks highly of him. A lot of the guys in the chat speak highly of him. If Klopp's interested in him, I trust that. Seems like the kind of player that could come in and do a good job. We definitely need cover in defensive midfield. Looks like a guy who can carry the ball as well, tight on the ball. So seems like everything that we need in the midfield, and I feel like anything is an upgrade from 3-4 constantly injured players. So looks like all go. Seems like he doesn't have a ridiculous transfer fee, which another one of our linked players at the moment seems like he has as well. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But Ugarte would be very crucial buy if we get him. Also, side note, him being Uruguayan, I wonder if that helps with Darwin Núñez. Maybe that gives him a buddy from the national team that he can have around camp and feel a little bit more comfortable. So that's another side that, unlike the intangibles, I think could be beneficial to the team as well.
Yeah, one thing that, Drew, I'm going to pick you up on, because we might go into it later or not, but I don't want to miss the opportunity. You mentioned that someone else we might be interested in. Shed a little bit of light on that and your thoughts on it.
I think McAllister has been the one that's coming up in news cycles constantly, especially after the game yesterday where he came up crucial with the penalty. I'm a fan of him, but I'm worried about the World Cup hype. And I know he's had some solid seasons for Brighton. He's had a few seasons with them now playing consistently. But 80 million pounds, which I think I saw is the latest quote tag, that seems very excessive for a player. I think Brighton are just holding feet over the fire, getting maximum fees for their players lately, and that kind of money makes me worry. I feel like that should McAllister, more realistically, a fair price would be around 50 million. So that's the concern for me. If it's 80 million with a player who's realistically worth around 50 million, that's 30 million that could go to another player. And then I'm thinking more like Nicolo Barella for someone who I know can do the business versus McAllister, where I feel confident if we get him, he'd do a job. But 80 million price tag is huge to have on your back.
Yeah. Okay. And I wanted to touch on that because I didn't want to just brush it aside, but we will definitely get onto McAllister later. Charlie, I'm just going to bring up something that Michael Ramsey, thank you so much for your donation as well, mentioned. Romeo Lavia would be a better buy than a rubbish mount. I mean, they're slightly different players, perhaps, but still talking about an Ugarte. Do we need a Lavia / Ugarte plus a mount?
Well, it really depends. The key transfer, and I know we'll probably talk about it in a bit, is that McAllister transfer. That would dictate what we would do in other positions. And I'm absolutely agree with everyone on the call today around that defensive midfield. We need the legs. We need someone that can, bite into a tackle, win the ball, from any type of position, because we work from the front. So it's really, really important having that combative player. We have Fabinho, but the performances this year haven't really stood up. Bajcetic is fantastic, really, really promising player. Just really shame that he got his injury at the time that he did. But it's crucial that if we're going to get someone, has to be in that defensive number 6 position. Lavia would be a good player. He has Premiership kind of experience, doesn't he? I think if we're going to do anything, it has to be this summer because of the buyback clause with Man City. If they wanted to do anything, that's available from 2024. So I think for Southampton, it really kind of can work two ways. Unfortunately, they're looking like they're going to be going down from their point of view. So they want to maximise as much money to be able to rebuild, to fight back and get back into the Premiership for next season. But also they don't want to be losing such a crucial player. So they kind of say, well, this is the price for the player. Our hands have been burnt in the past with the numerous players that we've taken from Southampton. So it's going to be an interesting one if that is the type of player that we do want to go for. Me personally, I would love to see Ugarte come in. Just like what Drew's saying about the Uruguayan connection, his ability to play top level football in Portugal. I know it's Portugal, but he's going to have European experience. He has played for the national team. I think all the signs are there for a really, really good player.
And I think this is the thing, like, excuse me, we said it's only Portugal, but there are quite a lot of Portuguese players who come over. Bruno Fernandes, Darwin Nunez, etc., have come over and have done really well. That was my initial feeling, if I'm honest, about Ugarte. Can he do that in the 6th role in the Premier League, Kev? What do you think?
And I think that's where the issue may be. I think we are looking for Premier League starters. We can't afford to have someone like a Nunez waiting 3 months. I think this window, and I've said it before, if we're not getting Bellingham, this has got to be pinpoint. And we need players who can come in and start and pick up. He wants the players in for pre-season. In other words, I want these players fit, ready to go on the first day of the season. And I think that's fundamental to where our targets are going to be. It's not going to be necessarily the ones that we are looking at. I think for those reasons, I think we're predominantly looking for Premier League players. That's why we're being heavily linked with the likes of Mount, with McAllister, now with Lavia. I think there's alternatives there. I think the problem with the Premier League, though, which I think is the reason why we should be looking for him for Ugarte, is that the prices are not going to, unless a team's going to get relegated like Southampton, plus with that release clause that Man City got, no one's going to go out the way to help Liverpool get a player in for the amount that we're asking for. So we are going to have to pay over the odds, and that's not going to sit right with many fans. I don't think, because they'll be looking at that and thinking, well, if we put 40 to that or 50 to that, we could have got Bellingham. And there'll always be that tag. And that's the problem we've got this season. We've put ourselves in a position now where we need to pinpoint this. And I think that's why there's other targets more viable that the club may deem as goers than what we're actually, rather than a Ugarte at the minute, because there is a predicament that it may take him a bit of a while to get up to the speed of the Premier League. That's my own opinion, though, Richie. I don't know whether you agree with that or you want to go into that a little bit more.
I was going to say,
honestly,
sorry.
Go on.
Sorry, I think it's really, really kind of interesting that Klopp said last week, I think it was last week or the week before, about the language barrier. Now, because he's got Darwin, hasn't been able to really communicate the ideas that maybe he wants to put across. He's had to kind of go through Pep blunders to get that point across, or, other players. Thiago the other day, when you saw him on the touchline, speaking a little bit of sweet nothing in his ear. But whether that went down well, we don't know. But that could be something that we need to kind of think about. If we are getting those players in, what's their English like to be able to communicate and take on messages from coaching staff? I think that's maybe something that they have had a rethink because of the Nunez situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a contentious argument, really, because we're looking at fees, looking at, is McAllister worth it? Could we pay an extra 20 to get Bellingham? It looks like Bellingham, for all intents and purposes, is off to Madrid, and fair play to him. It could have been a lot worse. He could have gone to Manchester City. Apparently, if you're looking at those rumours, he's turned Manchester City down. We would never, ever, though, turn down Jen LFC. Massive shout out to Jen, who really keeps this channel going. So thank you for your donations again, Jen, as well. And it's nice to see that you're here and you're joining in, obviously. Talking about the midfield then, talking about McAllister, Drew, I'll come over to you. Is McAllister, there was apparently some sort of rumours that came out today, he potentially has a release clause. And whether or not there is a release clause in there, it was signed before the World Cup. So perhaps it would be, I don't know, around about, let's say, 50 million. What is your, I suppose, maximum value on Alexis McAllister? Bearing in mind, not only did he score against Manchester United yesterday, he also did the Nunez celebration, which I call, not the Rashford celebration. How much can you put on a player like that who could perhaps transform Liverpool and be that transitional player that we've not had since Gini?
I take in consideration what Kev was saying earlier about we're probably going to pay over the top for most players. I think it's becoming that, that seller's market where you can ask, exorbitant amount of fees, and, you might get a Manchester United who comes in with 80 million for Anthony, etc. But McAllister, I think a fair price would be 50 million. I would, if, honestly, it's not my money, so I don't care at the end of the day what they spend on players, as long as we get the right amount and the right players in. McAllister, with the Premier League experience, can definitely do a job. I was talking more about the World Cup hype, but he's a quality player. I'd be worried about the price tag maybe putting pressure on him, but he's already been in the Premier League 3 years. So as far as price tag is concerned, I think a fair price is 50 million, but again, it's not my money. And at this point, I just want fit players in the midfield. And I think that's a position we can afford to have a few more. Like we're having, Keita, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Milner all exiting. So we need to replace those people, and if they can be fit and ready with some Premier League experience, that speaks well for the team going forward. And with someone like Ugarte, I think the fact that Klopp in the past has had like a stabilized midfield, but it hasn't seemed that way in the last couple of years with how many injuries we've had. So I think places are there to grab. McAllister could definitely, if he came in, I think he'd be on the team sheet in the first 11 from the start. But 50 million at the end of the day for me would be fair.
Yeah, and what does Alexis McAllister bring, Charlie, to Liverpool Football Club, really? Because I saw him last night. I've seen him all season. I saw him for the World Cup, and I was so impressed with him actually in the World Cup. What does he bring to Liverpool that we desperately need that could potentially rise to £80 million?
So just looking at last night, you that composure, last second of the game, penalty against Manchester United, I think that kind of speaks for itself in terms of the type of player who is able to take that responsibility to stand up and put himself in the spotlight. So there's that, you think about his intelligence, quick feet, some of the abilities to get out of tight spaces that we haven't had for such a long time since Gini was in the team. I remember the Barcelona game when he just turning players, getting out of sticky situations. We haven't had that in a midfield for such a long time. So that in itself is really, really crucial for what we're looking for in a player. And certainly I think the ability to carry the ball, to advance play, to put people in, I can certainly see our front three, adoring McAllister coming into the team because he's able to kind of pick up the ball and put people in. I just certainly think it's something that could unlock the front three and Nunes and Gakpo and all the other players that we have in our front line, the many players. I think is crucial.
And I mentioned on the stream the other day that he's a transitional player who can play a 6 or an 8 or a 10. And he's so good at travelling, but also protecting the ball too. He takes set pieces for Brighton. He's scored an absolute belter as well of a penalty against De Gea. He's a reliable player. He's only young. For me, I'm all over it. Obviously, it depends on a little bit of the price tag, which you don't really want to say. I agree with what Drew said earlier. It's not our money, but at the same time, it is FSG's money. We know they might be quite tight on this. I'd like Paulinho, says Ant. Paulinho, for me, has lit the Premier League up. And there are so many good players about. Is there anyone, I'm going to put you all on the spot because it's not on the agenda. Is there anyone around Europe who you think might be able to come in and actually do a job? We've mentioned the Lavias and McAllisters and obviously the Bellinghams of the world. For me, there's a Dominic Szoboszlai who's doing extremely well. I think he's been rumoured to Newcastle as well in the past few days, which is unfortunate. But for me, there is more than outside the Premier League. And a news article that came out was Liverpool are only looking at players in the Premier League, which is why they're not looking at Ugarte. But for me, life is more than the Premier League. Is there anyone, and I'll open this up to anybody, is there anyone who you think, and again, please do add in the comments because you've been absolutely phenomenal tonight. We've got Michael Ramsey, for instance, donating money left, right and centre. And I would probably rather pay 80 million for Caicedo than McAllister. But, I don't think we'll get his right leg for that. So is there anyone there that you think actually Liverpool should be in for that they're currently not?
Barella for me, I'll throw that out there. That's an easy one. I think most people appreciate his talent. He's really lit it up for Inter this season. Big slot right into the midfield. I think he has that same sort of package where he can get the ball, drive forward, and he's not afraid of a shot, which I think is something our midfield needs as well. I know Trent stepping into that role brings a lot of creativity there, so maybe that's something Klopp's thinking about and why we've been linked to more defensive midfielders than attacking midfielders or goal scoring midfielders. But I think having somebody in there who's not afraid of a shot. I know McAllister had a brilliant left foot strike that De Gea saved in yesterday's game, and he does, he is capable of scoring goals. So I think that's something that should be taken into consideration since we don't have many goals coming from the midfield. But for me, Barella would be my shout from outside of the three that we have in the title.
Barella for me as well. Barella just oozes the class. The problem I think with that is that it's trying to get the quality players out of it. Like they tend to stay in and around the Italian leagues if they possibly can. Another one that I'm quite intrigued about will be Gravenberch, and the fact that he's been at Bayern and has come through the academy, and they're reluctant that they want to let him go. I quite like the fact that it's that kind of players, those players who've been at established clubs, the likes of a Bayern Munich, and although they haven't achieved, you know what you're getting, you know what their training's going to be about, you know that they can come in and possibly do a job. I'd like to see him. I think Thuram as well, which Clay mentions. I think he definitely deserves to be in there. Another monster midfielder, number 6 that I would like to see. There's other options out there, but I don't know whether we're not too hesitant at the minute to be looking at them. I think if we don't get A, B, C on the first list, then we'll start looking, and I think it may be a bit too late.
So I'm going to throw out a few names. I think Barella's obviously top of the list, but I wrote down as having to think about players that could come into the team or be part of a really good squad. Because we're going to be playing in full competitions next season. Full kind of squad rotation is going to be coming in place. So Jesper Lundstrom, Thuram, Kone, and Florian Wirtz is a name I've been really excited. I know there's 2 of them that play in the German league, but Florian Wirtz is a fantastic player, really, really good. If you ever get a chance to watch him, he's a boy wonder. Honestly, he's a fantastic player.
It's nice to finally be shopping in a position that has a plethora of players open, because it seemed like in the past windows we've been going for positions or needing positions that rarely have top quality, but it seems like the market's ripe with a lot of quality that we could bring in. It's nice.
Yeah, I think if we look at last year, I know you had the Tchouameni shout, and then obviously you went to Real Madrid, etc., with the Kylian Mbappe transfer breaking down. But it felt like there was a hole like in the market for centre mids, and now it seems like there's loads of centre mids, which is perfect for us. So yeah, there have been so many good shouts. That are put obviously in the stream as well, and there are the Thurams and the Kones of the world. For me, I think a lot of it, without trying to be too cynical, is always going to come down to money. And that's why we didn't go for a Jude Bellingham, because even if Madrid signed him for that £88 million, not euros, which they're rumoured to, I think perhaps that Liverpool would do better to spend that money elsewhere and say get 2 midfielders in than a Jude Bellingham, which is not going to be popular. I completely understand that. And from my point of view, everyone should always see Jude Bellingham as an extra, as in like you should always pay that money for a Jude Bellingham. Is there anyone apart from a Jude Bellingham who we've mentioned who Liverpool 100% has to bring in this summer? Because for me, it was always a Jude. It's now not Jude Bellingham. Is there anyone who Liverpool should absolutely, Drew, prioritise for this summer and say that should be your number 1 transfer target, regardless of position? That should be Liverpool's next go-to man. If you're not going to bring in Jude, who's it going to be?
I think not getting Jude almost takes that off the table with what we're saying with how many options we could bring in. I think that it now becomes we need absolute minimum 2 midfielders to come in. I expect 3. Like I wouldn't be happy with just 2 unless they were like a Barella and an Ugarte or McAllister, Lavia. Like we need to fill in the midfield. So it now becomes like a case for me that we need to bring in 2-3 midfielders. But I would like a marquee signing like Barella, where we could get very excited about not just kind of fill our bellies with 3 midfielders and be like, all right, I hope it sits well. I want to know that we're bringing in someone who can absolutely, bring Anfield on their feet, and me across the pond, excited to wake up at 4:30 in the morning for games. But yeah, I don't think it comes down to an individual. I think it just comes down to doing the right business and getting in at least 3 players to replace the ones who are outgoing, and hopefully they're all fit, because I'm tired of seeing the injuries week in, week out.
I do think we need to look at defence as well. You know, looking at centre back, kind of looking at the system that we've taken on board over the last kind of 6 games, and it's working really, really well. Maybe that left side of defence is slightly weakened. Whether that's something that Robbo needs to work on over the summer, get familiar with that type of third centre back, stroke left back, wing back, whatever you want to call it. That there is a position there that we may need to look at in the near future. There's a number of centre backs. Bastoni was mentioned in the comments, and I think he's a fabulous player. There's the Croat player. I forgot his name.
Carvalho.
That's it. Yeah. So he's left-footed. Can play at left back. He's a really another good option that could play at left back, but then kind of switch into that third centre back to allow Trent to go into that number 6 position with a double pivot. I also think there's possibly something that we need to do in defence, as well as a backup goalkeeper if we are losing, you know, the 2 backups that we have for Alisson. Unfortunately, that's the situation that we're in.
Yeah,
so
and I think. Sorry, I was just going to say with Carvalho, it looks like it might be a big release clause. And for me, he's phenomenal. Like every time I've seen him, he's brilliant. He's an absolute warrior. I just don't think if you're going to pay that much, I don't think that Liverpool pay that much money when midfield is a priority, if I'm honest. But I mean, Kev, listen, you go ahead, talk about our centre back options, because I just put in the chat there, like in the Iniacho, 45 million release clause. Is that a bad deal?
Well, it is when you're trying to get Ugarte as well from the same club. So you know, do we, you know, this is where it starts getting a little bit figurative. Do we send Fabio Carvalho the other way as part of a sweetener and do it that way? I don't know. I quite like the option of Timber playing, who can also play midfield and can also play. I think what we're really looking at is basically we're looking for someone who can play a numerous and be flexible, can play different options, can provide cover when Trent goes into that midfield, and at least give us 3 solid centre backs who have got pace, got power, and can get back and assist. That allows Trent and Robbo to play a bit further up. Now, does that mean that we play a different formation and we start playing with the double 6? Then, if that's the case, then obviously Timber, I think, would be a decent shout, because he can play centre back, he can play right back, he can play defensive midfield. Charlie's already mentioned someone who can play there as well. There are options there, but if we're going for Ugarte, are we seriously going to go in and get? You know, it's same with McAllister. We want Casido as well. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, there's certain clubs where you're looking at maybe 1 or 2 options that we want to take. I totally agree with Charlie. I think we also need a backup goalkeeper. But again, I don't think that's much of a person. I'd sooner take someone on a free transfer. If Ben Foster was about, I'd probably bring him in. Do you know what I mean? Because just a decent backup. Do you know what I mean? That's what I would say. But again, you know, just again with the centre backs, there's numerous other options that we can get. But again, you know, I think our priority should be fundamentally get at least 2 midfielders in first, and then start tackling what money we've got left, who's leaving, who's actually going, and then, you know, see how much we get for Phillips and stuff like that, and then put that towards the central defence for person. I'm going to stop ranting now. It feels like I'm ranting.
You're not ranting.
But then there is also, I was going to say, we've got a couple of lads that are out on loan as well that supposedly been playing really, really good footballs. You know, Van der Berg is kind of lit up.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, so I've heard really good things about him. Conor Bradley won the Player of the Season for Bolton. So he looks like a good option for right back. I know we've still got Ramsey on the books who's injured, but hopefully over the summer he can kind of start nailing down, you know, starts or, you know, cup runs itself. So I think there's options there in terms of the youth policies that we have. But it's just like what we've already said, we need players that are able to kind of go in from the beginning and make a difference straight away.
So it looks like we're all in agreement. Liverpool obviously need a massive investment this summer. Do you think Liverpool did right? And again, I don't want to harp on about Jude Bellingham because what's done is done. Did Liverpool, though, in hindsight now, knowing that Jude's gone, we're looking at the McAllisters, Ugartes, the Lavias perhaps of the world. Did they do right in letting Jude go and perhaps signing 2 or 3 other players instead? Charlie, I'll go to you first.
Okay, so the situation for me was I think Jude would have signed for Liverpool. However, the problems that we faced this season, essentially the drop off from a number of players from another number of positions has been so significant that it's meant for Klopp and the board and all the coaching staff, transfer rooms, transfer team to look at other positions. Unfortunately, Thiago isn't fit enough. Fabinho's legs had dropped off. Henderson's dropped off. I think the situation was if we had players that were still performing, we could actually put that the money that we did save for Bellingham and put it towards him. I think that's, for me, that's where it comes down to.
Okay, I'm going to ask exactly the same question to Drew.
I think it's one of those ones where we are definitely going to need hindsight for this. I think this is why it's challenging for Klopp and the people who are making transfers. Because for me, the hype around Bellingham, I was ready for him to be at the club. I was very excited for him to be, the next pivotal midfielder in Liverpool for the next 10 years, kind of thing. So, but with the task of rebuilding the midfield and, as we were just saying, needing a backup keeper, potentially a center back, covering on the sides, like that kind of stuff. It's not a simple one-buy fix, which seems to be the case when FSG go in for a big money transfer. It seems to be like that's the one player we're getting, and then maybe like one smaller option, but it seems like we're going to need to bring in at a minimum 4 players over this window. So if that money gets spent well, I think that's when it comes down to that will be a good decision at the end of the day. But at the same time, if we buy in a couple midfielders who don't hit the ground running and then we're in the similar situation, then it starts looking poor, because we know that if we brought Jude in, if he was fit, that he would do the business. So I think it's one of those ones where you got to trust Klopp, you got to trust the transfer team to get it right, and they ultimately have to be the ones that prove that this decision is the right one.
Yeah, I agree. In hindsight, it's going to play such a pivotal role in all of this, especially when we know that Jude is going to hit the ground running at Madrid with the likes of Tchouaméni, Valverde, etc. in that centre midfield, Camavinga too. To fall well, baby. Stephen King quite Drew. I know that you're all in on that. Listen,
hold on, Kev, you were shaking your head. Was that at me or something in the chat?
No. What I think this goes back to when we let Ronaldo go and we didn't bring anyone in. Now we've gone down a route of bringing in midfielders that are not Klopp kind of players, who are more creative and technical and have not got the legs. And since then, we have sat back and relied on this midfield to get us through thick and thin. Now, the issue I've got with that is that if these are the sole part of the actual club, then why are these assets allowed to go for nothing in the likes of Naby Keita, who had a 50 million, who we could sell for 50 million, is now going for nothing? I am very annoyed and angered at the fact that we, with hindsight, all this window, all the money could have been going on Jude, and we'd all be sitting back and we'd all be having, we'd be raving about him. We'd be we'd be having loads of streams of and loads of little 30-second drops of what he can do. Instead, what we have now is we have allowed it to ferment and stagnate so much so that we're now in a position where we now have to make 4, 5, 6 changes to that midfield, as well as other areas that now are going to be under pressure. And we are going to be under pressure because we're going to need someone to cover for Van Dijk because he's getting older. For some reason, FSG and the club have not seen that players get older, and with time they lose their legs, especially in a gegenpressing kind of style that we play. We haven't been flexible enough. We haven't gambled enough. And that's one of the biggest cries I have about this and annoyed about is that we look at the likes of Brighton and what they're doing, and we were doing that before they were, and we sat back and thought, "Our sound, we're all good. Everyone looks at us," but they've carried it on and they've gambled on certain plays. We haven't. We've been reluctant to do that. And we sat back and go, no, well, we'll let them go there. And then we'll pay 60, 70 million for them, which we're going to do with McAllister, which we could have got earlier, but we never. We could have done it with Enzo, with Fernandez as well, a year earlier. But we haven't took that gamble. We haven't took that risk. And that's the problem I got with this at the minute, is that we've let ourselves get into this position and this predicament, and it's no one's fault other than our own, because we've just sat back and allowed this to stagnate as much as what it has, and that's the annoying thing about it for me. And now we're in a position where we're trying to buy players, and everyone knows what we want, and we're going to have to spend more than what we need to.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point, because we were in for even a Matthias Nunes, who obviously went to Wolves, and we were then rumored to pay more than 20 million that we could have paid last summer because he's in the Premier League. So I don't know whose fingers to point or where to go, because I was all up for Nunes in the summer, and I still am. I think he'll be an absolute warrior. But at the same time, it does feel like the Edwards of the world, or the Wards of the world, have dispersed from Liverpool Football Club, and they have gone to the Brightons, and they are finding these gems like a Matoma. You know, Liverpool used to find those Matomas. Liverpool used to find the McAllisters. And it does feel as if something is lacking perhaps. But moving on anyway into the weekend. So transfer talk over, thankfully, until another day. For the weekend, what are we expecting, lads? Because we saw last night the future red, Alexis Mac Allister, slotted a penalty in the 98th minute against Manchester United to dent their hopes in Europe. For me, I'm still thinking that we perhaps come 5th or 6th. I don't see us closing the gap as shite as Man United are. We were pretty poor earlier on in the season, and I think that's going to hinder us. I don't see Manchester United dropping those points, especially with a game in hand. And let's be honest, I think Newcastle with Eddie Howe, manager of the season for me, if I'm honest, with as much as he is a Saudi Arabian cocksucker. Sorry, excuse the language. But apart from that, what we're expecting really for the rest of the season? Do we think that Liverpool will be able to reach that top 4? If not, are you happy with 5th or 6th spot? But also, what are we expecting from this weekend, Drew?
I want to pass it on to Charlie real quick, because I was excited when we started the stream and hear him talk about what he wanted for Brentford.
Brilliant. Come on then, Charlie. Come on.
Right. Okay. So I don't know if anyone remembers that first game that we played. Well, January the 2nd. That was such a poor game, and I had to relook at the highlights, and unfortunately just to remind myself with what actually happened that day. So I don't know if you remember, there was 2 disallowed goals from Brentford. Essentially everything came from crosses into the box. How we didn't handle Brentford on that day was just shocking. It got to the stage, Van Dijk was substituted at half time. Now, at the time when I was watching the match, I thought, is that because he's had such a poor game? He's been showing up all the pace that we were playing against on that day. Is this the kind of the downfall? Is this where we're seeing Van Dijk's kind of immortality be questioned? I want revenge for that day, because Liverpool aren't as bad as what that day kind of curtailed. You know, what actually happened on that day. We can win. We need to keep clean sheet, but I think we can handle the pace of Brentford. But just re-looking at the goals that we conceded that day, we just need to be on our game. We need to be sensible, sharp, and have a little bit more guile, intelligence at the back. Robbo cannot be storming forward and getting himself caught out, especially if we're leaving it to Van Dijk and Konate. What actually happened on that day in Brentford was Robbo was caught out of position time and time again, and we just cannot be having that happen again tomorrow night.
So, Drew,
was that good enough for you, Drew?
I was going to say, Drew, you pinged it to Charlie, who gave us really in-depth analysis there. So press on you because you pinged it to him. So what are you expecting tomorrow, buddy?
I'm expecting us to continue our run of form. I feel like getting it over the line has been consistent in the last 5 games, and I think that's a habit that we're building. I think that's what you need to develop. That's that mentality monsters where it's just getting into the habit of winning and getting it over the line however possible. I think at home at Anfield with 5:30 kickoff, you got a almost nighttime atmosphere for that game, so it should be a good atmosphere for the game. I think the players are in good form. We got plenty of striking options up top, though I know that Jota's got the little niggle and Firmino might not be back too early, but with Diaz back on the pitch, we know he can offer much excitement and a lot of craft on the ball. He's not afraid of a shot. Salah, hopefully, he's been hit and miss some games, but he seems to find the back of the net lately. Nunez, I'm hoping if he does start, that he really takes his chance because Gakpo has come in and really just, for me, been extremely impressive and one of my favorite players to watch each game. Midfield should be interesting, but I'm happy with Trent moving up in that forward position when we have the ball. So I think we're primed to where we've been in a good run of form, and Tottenham game, minus the collapse aside. So I think that's the little worry, with what Charlie was saying about Brentford getting caught out, or how we got caught out in the first game. Tottenham showed that we still haven't perfected this new system and we can get caught out. So I think that needs to be on the radar, which I expect it will be. But on the flip side of that, we also showed we can score goals. So I feel pretty comfortable with this Brentford match. I don't know if we'll go and run away with it, but I expect a win. And as far as our top 4 chances, I'm really not thinking about that. I will just be pleasantly and happily joyous if Man U drops the ball. But I expect us to just do our business for the rest of the season and probably end up in Europa League and maybe a Dublin final next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Hellier, to answer your question, which sporting director are going to sign all these players for Liverpool? Good question. Probably none.
It'd be Richie.
Kev. Yeah, Kev. It'll be me. I'll sign everyone. Give me the money. We mentioned the Dublin final. Kev and I privately have been talking on WhatsApp quite a lot, saying, we're going to Dublin, we're going to get the ferry, we're going to do this, and this. Top 4 means a lot to Liverpool. I'd love to win that. I'm not. I think optimistic as you can be. We're not too much of a dreamer. We are doubtless the believers, but at the same time, we are asking a lot of Manchester United. I'm happy to go Dublin for a final. I know Kev is, and I know that Drew now is as well. He's going to meet us over there. Hope.
I'll be there with you as well.
America,
I'll be there.
It's right, Charlie.
And Charlie's there. So look, right.
I'll be there.
Okay, so basically, anyone listening, let's just go Dublin. Don't even bother, lads. Just don't bother. Yeah, happy days. Kev, expectations for tomorrow, bud?
I'll be honest. I see it being a very tight game. The way we played against Fulham in the middle of the week, it's as though we were ready for the season to end. It was very dour. It was very lackluster. I just hope Timicus doesn't play because he was the left back that day when we played Brentford. It wasn't Robbo. He came on at half time, and the damage had already been done. And he was actually at fault for one of their goals. I think it was the second goal, where the ball was played out to him. And anyway, I see it being a hard-fought game, and I see us. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be a tight game. I think we need. I think Charlie's right. We need to be able to deal with them. The brightness that they've got up front, the creativity that they have. I see them playing differently than if it was at their place. I'd say we'd be on for a loss. If I'm perfectly honest, but I think they struggle away from home. They struggled at Everton the other week, and look how poor they were. So for me, it depends what Brentford turn up and what kind of mood they're in. I'm expecting this to be an intriguing game. I've got a feeling it could be a bit like a Forest game. And we'll need to be on the front foot from the start. I think the issue is going to be in midfield with the amount of injuries we've got and the players that may be available, and that's where I think the game may be predominantly won. and how we deal with crosses and set pieces. Because over the last couple of games, we've been dire. But if we sort that
It's
out,
a free hit. Yeah. Well, it's a free hit for Brentford, isn't it? That's the thing. Teams are coming to us now, knowing that the season's pretty much done. We can just go for it.
It is like that, but the problem is, though, I thought that about Fulham during the week, and they nearly pulled off and nearly got a draw against us. Do you know what I mean? If it wasn't for Ali in good form, so I think it's down to how we deal with our set pieces and how our midfield plays. Other than that, I can't see us not scoring tomorrow. So I think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be one for the neutral. I think, Richie.
Yeah, and I don't want to get political at all, because I really don't, because people are divided on this. The anthem's going to be played. Whatever happens. I'm really don't care either way. If I'm honest, like, it's people's choice what they do on that. But it is going to be a 5:30 kickoff. It's going to be televised, and Liverpool really, I think, have to put on a little bit of a show. They're at home. There's no excuse not to. They've got to go for it, and I would love to see that heavy metal football that Klopp has sort of played down a little bit. In terms of what we do. But listen, let's do a little bit of one-hitters, and you've got to not think about the answer. Okay, so this is completely off ball. This wasn't on the schedule. I've just made it up in my head. Okay, so you have to go with, I'm going to say one person, and you have to give the answer immediately. Deal?
Go
on.
Charlie, best player for Liverpool this season?
Alisson.
Kev, best player for Liverpool this season?
Alisson.
Drew, most improved player for Liverpool this season?
Maybe Gakpo, just in that short stint.
Fair. Kev, worst player for Liverpool this season?
Timicus.
Charlie, most improved player Liverpool this season?
Basetic.
Charlie, worst player at Liverpool this season?
Henderson.
Okay. Kev, area we need to improve this season?
Midfield.
Charlie, section.
Oh, sorry, it just broke up then.
Same question. Area we need to improve?
Midfield.
Drew, area we don't need to improve?
Attack.
Drew, midfield that we do need to improve? I'm going.
Yeah, that's
fair. One player, Kev, you can renew a contract for life. Who is it? Put your tea down, quick.
Salah.
One player that you're going to contract for life, Charlie.
Alisson.
One player you get rid of for life, Drew.
Gakpo. Oh, no, not
Get rid of.
Shit, oh. It might have been the first time I was sworn on stream, too. Get rid of. Oh, God. I hate to do him dirty, but Henderson.
Yep, fair. One player you keep for life then, Drew.
Gakpo.
Okay, nice. See, a little bit of free score in there. These guys did not have any idea I was going to do that either. And I'm glad that I didn't get put on the spot there too. Okay, right. We've also had a couple of Hendo shouts. And now for me, again, without being too personal, I love Jordan as much as anyone does. Maybe the time is passed by, etc. I still don't believe that. And I get lots of rubbish and the rest of it on the internet for saying that Hendo can still do a job for Liverpool. If Hendo, though, Kev, is not captain of Liverpool, who should be? Go.
Oh, God. I'd have to give it to Ali.
Fair.
Or Virgil for
Drew?
me.
Yeah.
I would say Alisson, but yeah, Alisson. I was going to say Trent, but I think he's still a few years away. Alisson.
Fair. Charlie?
Van Dijk.
Yeah.
Van Dijk.
He's
Okay,
third in
Ali
line,
Van
isn't
Dijk.
he?
Okay.
Yeah. I think he's third in line, isn't he, after Milner? So
Yeah, I think so. And it looks like, to be fair, again, like from today, it looks like Milner's going to Brighton. Hopefully that's moving the deal for Alexis McAllister. Not transfer fee wise, but like negotiation wise as well, because he's been a tremendous service. Surely, and I rack my brains here, and I'm not just being biased. Is he, and this is open to anybody in the chats, anybody, is he the best Bosman signing of Premier League history?
Share trophies, yes. Why not? I can't think of any other players who've come in free and won it all.
Yeah.
Good shout. I'll be honest. I am gutted he's actually going, to be honest, because I'm going to miss him coming on for the last 10 minutes of the game, just to see the game out. And if he's, I think I would have liked him to stay to be part of the coaching staff as well. I think the fact that he wants to go carry on and play football, it's a terrible shame if he's going. But credit to him. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to ridicule the lad because he's won everything at our club, and he's been an ambassador at the club that I love. He's been great at the club, and I just wish that we had more players who are leaving at the same kind of stamina and the same kind of mentality as what he had, because he is the one that I would go to. Honestly, quality. Go ahead, Charlie, mate. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think it's really, really, really interesting about the coaching role. I think he's gone to Brighton to learn a different style of football that would then make benefit him in his next stage. I think the coaching role is there for him at Liverpool, but I think it's that style of football that he's seen at Brighton that he wants to take on and adapt for himself. Maybe that's his thinking. I don't think it's personally the end of the road for Milner and Liverpool. Who knows? There may be a coaching position when he does actually hang up his boots at that point.
Yeah, there's so many good shouts in here. Like in the chat, there's a Joel Matip shout, which is tremendous as well. Gary McAllister, from one McAllister to another, absolutely tremendous as well. Joined obviously the coaching staff too. I think that's perhaps, Lallana, apparently Adam Lallana had a bit to say in this as well, because he obviously took on a coaching role in Brighton too. So I think that's where Milner wants to go. But for me, Milner is the absolute elite professional. I've never had a bad word said against him. And I think he's phenomenal. And I genuinely, when people leave Liverpool in recent years, I genuinely think maybe the last one was Coutinho, who you thought, well, you know what? There's the door. No one else has left Liverpool, and I thought that. Not a Genie, not even a Suarez, because he went on to do bigger and better things at Barcelona. For me, I just wish nobody else but the best. But that is a sign of a great team, because you think, okay, well, they've done what they can, and now they're leaving. And for me, that's a sign of a great team, because that's all there is to it, and Milner has done that, and I wish Milner nothing but the best. And if there's a coaching role to have in the future, I wish him nothing but the best. But for me, Matip, Milner, probably the best Bosman signings of all time, especially maybe for Liverpool Football Club. We are going to wrap it up there. Listen, and thank you so much for everybody. We've had so many amazing comments. I'm so sorry that I couldn't flick through all of them. I'm trying to listen and click at the same time. I'm not a great multitasker, so I apologise. But these lads have made it so easy for me because Drew, Charlie, Kev, you've all been phenomenal. So really well done. Any last words, Kev?
No, just big shout out for tomorrow, and hopefully we win and we all sing "King, Long Live the King" Shankly tomorrow rather than that.
King Kenny.
Yeah,
King
or
Kenny.
even King Kenny. Shankly is our king.
Drew?
3 points tomorrow. Good game. That's all I ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. Charlie?
Absolutely, 100%. Let's get those 3 points. Let's get on these Manx.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be massive as well, because we're at 5:30 kickoff in UK time. Drew, what is it over in the US?
9:30.
Okay, so that's a lovely wake-up time to hopefully set your day off as well. So, listen, as always, thank you so much for listening, guys. You have been phenomenal. Thank you so much. As always, down Manchester and up the Reds.